थिंक ओवर द पीरियड हम सब ने बहुत सी चीज़ें देखी लास्ट 100, 125, 200 साल में, और उसमें एक चीज़ बहुत उभर के सामने आए और वो थी इकोसिस्टम थिंकिंग, जिस पे नेचर बनी हुई है पूरी, कि जो चीज़ एक बंदे के लिए ट्रैश है वो किसी के लिए ट्रायर है। जब हम बात करते हैं जहाँ पे हम कहते हैं अरबी और अजमी सब बराबर हो जाते हैं, राइट? सो दिस इज हाउ द नेचर हैज क्रिएटेड द इकोसिस्टम इन द वर्ल्ड एंड इन द यूनिवर्स। यही इकोसिस्टम हम लोगों ने भी रेप्लिकेट करना था, बट समहाउ ओवर द डिफरेंट एराज, अगर हम लास्ट 10,000 साल की हिस्ट्री देखें तो वो चीज़ें थोड़ी चेंज होना शुरू हो गई। वो इकोसिस्टम से निकल के वो एक सर्टन ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल, पर्सनल, सोशल लेवल पे और फिर फैमिली यूनिट लेवल पे आ गए, और उसमें समहाउ इंक्लूसिविटी जो थी वहाँ पे शायद हमने उसका इम्पैक्ट जो है उसको असेस करना कम कर दिया। पाकिस्तान में रिसेंटली बड़ी मजे की चेंजेस आई हैं, जिसमें आई ऑलवेज अप्रिशिएट स्टेट बैंक ने रिसेंटली 2017 में ग्रीन बैंकिंग से शुरू किया, ग्रीन बैंकिंग गाइडलाइन से, देन दे केम टू ESRM, और अभी पाकिस्तान में बहुत रिसेंटली एक चीज अप्रूव हुई है दैट इज कॉल्ड ग्रीन पाकिस्तान ग्रीन टेक्सोनॉमी। अब ये वो सारी चीजें हैं जो कि बैंकिंग सेक्टर में भी इकोसिस्टम अप्रोच को, कि आपने सिर्फ बिजनेस को नहीं देखना, आपने उसका एनवायरमेंटल इफेक्ट भी देखना है, आपने उसका सोशल इफेक्ट भी देखना है, और आपने विद इन द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन उस प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी को भी देखना है। सो दैट्स अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग बैलेंस which is coming out. And at the same time, there is another representation from a Pakistan green taxonomy perspective कि कौन से areas जो हैं वहाँ पे focus करना है। उन्होंने sectors भी identify किए जहाँ पे risk ज़्यादा है चीज़ों climate के हवाले से या social की side से, और उन्होंने एक बड़ी मजे की term introduce करवाई, do not significantly harm। अगर आप कोई ऐसा काम कर रहे हैं जो कि still मतलब ग्रीन नहीं है, अच्छा नहीं है, बट डू इवैल्यूएट कि इट शुड नॉट सिग्निफिकेंटली हार्म द सोसाइटी और द एनवायरमेंट साइड ऑफ इट। सो दिस इज वेयर द इकोसिस्टम थिंकिंग इज कमिंग बैक फ्रॉम अ रेगुलेटरी पर्सपेक्टिव एज वेल, और यही चीज, इसका कुछ पोर्शन जो है रिपोर्टिंग और डाटा की साइड से SECP ने भी रेप्लिकेट किया। सो आज जिस चीज पे हम बात करने जा रहे हैं वो है हाउ वी कैन ब्रिंग दैट इकोसिस्टम थिंकिंग, not creating an ecosystem, but bringing all the ecosystem partner together. And I think we will start with the Nassir Salim Saab. Nassir, as a HBL, you have got a great footprint around Pakistan. You have got a history there as well. You are there since Pakistan was born, right? And then HBL has gone through a lot of transformation. So आज अगर हम इसको देखें जहाँ पे हम खड़े हैं, जिस even the टर्मोइल जो हमने पिछले कुछ अरसे में देखा, इकोनॉमिक टर्मोइल और ग्लोबल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स देखे, फ्लड्स देखे, इस सारे ओवरऑल challenges के बावजूद HBL has really posted a very good profit and they have shown a very good progress at the same time. So how HBL is looking at that ecosystem and how they are trying to play their role to really bring the underrepresented sectors and as well as जहाँ पे हमारे पास SME की हम बात करें, एग्रीकल्चर की बात करें, हम होम लोन्स की बात करें, हम फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन की बात करें, तो इस सारे इकोसिस्टम को how HBL see and what you are doing around it?
Much as I would like to say कि ये it is an HBL success, I think the right way to look at it is कि जो banking industry है overall last year it has become the single largest taxpayer for the government. So really पहले oil and gas used to be number one, now the banking sector is there. And that just shows that it's not just one institution, it is that particular ecosystem. और अगर आज आप सुबह की गुफ्तगू जो है उसके अंदर मोहम्मद अली ने भी बात की और औरंगजेब साहब who was the previous CEO for HBL, उन्होंने भी इस पे गुफ्तगू की कि what you need is strong profitable institutions. जहाँ पे SOEs की बात हो रही थी, loss making की बात हो रही थी. So this is one area where I think जो public sentiment है वो थोड़ा सा correct करने की ज़रूरत है कि making money legitimately and deploying that in a sustainable manner is the right thing that Pakistan needs. ये जो conference है, this is about the symphony of these ecosystems. जहाँ पे बात आती है कि जी how do you marry the profitability today or a reduction in profitability today so that there is a sustainable future, तो वो बात आ जाती है जो कि आज सुबह की कॉन्वर्सेशन से मैं लीड करूँगा कि हमारे यहाँ तो बड़ी मुश्किल से 3 साला प्लान बनती है जबकि हमें 50 साला प्लान चाहिए. सो व्हेन यू स्टार्ट लुकिंग एट अ वेरी डिफरेंट टाइम फ्रेम, और अल्लाह का शुक्र है our shareholders and our board also looks at it the way management looks at it, कि जी we are here for the long haul. We actually predate Pakistan and we were the first bank जब आज़ादी declare हुई to actually move its headquarters and move its business to Pakistan. So our time frame is unlimited here. जब आप उसमें देखते हैं तो like for example climate resilience है. Now, every 3 years we are seeing devastation taking place, and overall एक industry के ऊपर impact आता है, and it is simply not sustainable. अगर मेरा time horizon 1 साल का है, तो मैं कहूँगा यार कोई बात नहीं, 3 साल बाद होएगा ना, 1 साल का तो मैं number दिखा दूँगा. But if we are serious about sustainability, which means that we preserve the assets of this earth, and we are able to use it, तो एक तो ये है कि आपको उसके लिए इन्वेस्ट करना पड़ता है. और हमने ये जर्नी जो है इस वक्त HBL इज ऑन अ नेट ज़ीरो जर्नी, कि जी हम लोग जो हैं वी आर गोइंग टूवर्ड्स ए न्यूट्रल कार्बन फुटप्रिंट. तो इन दिस जर्नी विच वी हैव बीन फॉर द लास्ट 8 years, वी हैव एक्चुअली रिड्यूस्ड अबाउट 500 tons ऑफ कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड emissions. हमने अपना ऑडिट कराया है, हम लोग अपनी सस्टेनेबिलिटी रिपोर्ट जो है वो पब्लिश करते हैं एवरी ईयर. सो वी नीड टू स्टार्ट टेकिंग द मेजर्स, एंड कुछ मेजर्स हैं जो बैंक्स लेते हैं, लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल क्रॉप इंश्योरेंस है, टीचिंग बेटर एग्रोनॉमी टेक्निक्स टू मिनिमाइज द इम्पैक्ट ऑफ क्लाइमेट चेंज. लेकिन कुछ चीज़ें ये क्लाइमेट चेंज को तो नहीं रोक रही, but where we need is plantation of trees and maintenance of those plantations. And again jo plantation drives hain, we take them very seriously and we fully participate on them on a pan Pakistan basis, because ye deforestation jo hai, this is also leading to it. The second is around all the traffic that is there, jo hydrocarbon based jo हमारी गाड़ियां हैं, इंडस्ट्रीज जो हैं, दे आर जनरेटिंग अ लॉट ऑफ पोल्यूटेंट्स. सो हाउ डू वी डू दैट? सो हमने कोई 3 साल पहले एक नो न्यू कोल का कमिटमेंट ऑलरेडी कर लिया है. सो नाउ एक हमारी कोल फाइनेंसिंग है विच इज़ गोइंग टू रन आउट बिफोर 2030, बट वी आर नॉट एडिंग एनीथिंग मोर टू इट, वी आर मूविंग अवे फ्रॉम इट. सो सिमिलरली आई थिंक द इंडस्ट्री इज फेस्ड विद दोज चॉइसेस. हमारी एक बिल्डिंग अभी बनी है माइक्रो फाइनेंस बैंक की इन गिलगित, एंड दिस इज़ ए लीड गोल्ड सर्टिफाइड बिल्डिंग, which basically means that it has been built on green principles. और अभी एक जो हमारे बड़ी टावर बन रहा है इन कराची, again that is going to be lead gold certified, right from कि जी जब आप फाउंडेशन के लिए मट्टी निकालते हैं उसको कहाँ डिप्लॉय करते हैं, down to what kind of air conditioning requirement is there, what kind of power generation is on it. So I think overall we all have to start budgeting for it. हमने अपनी branch network, and it's a very large network, we've already solarized about 250 of our branches which are now running on solar power. ये अभी माशाल्लाह स्टेट बैंक ने गवर्नमेंट ऑफ पाकिस्तान की स्कीम ईवी की शुरू की है, वो शुरुआत है मोटरसाइकिल्स और 3 व्हीलर्स की. सो वी विल बी फुल्ली पार्टिसिपेटिंग इन दोज. तो आई थिंक ये मेजर्स हैं जो हमें लेके जाने. द सेकेंड बिग थिंग जो कि ये प्रायोरिटी है विद इन द ओवरऑल ग्रीन इज़ कि वी कैनॉट इग्नोर 50% ऑफ आवर पॉपुलेशन. तो अगर हमारी पाकिस्तान की पॉपुलेशन 50% से थोड़ी सी ज़्यादा फीमेल है, so what are we doing in terms of creating enabling environments where
Sir,
people
इसमें
are
मैं अभी आपके
comfortable.
पास ना वापस आऊंगा. My question to you would be when I'll be coming back. So now you picked up the right thing. Like there's a women population, there are startups and all that. So how the liquidity which you have will be deployed to the sector which are high risk, right? So we will come back to that
So
question.
we'll come back to that. The V code जो है United Nations का, we're signatories to it as with many other banks. So that is specifically for female entrepreneurs.
Yeah, so we will
come in
back
detail
to the
around.
yeah detail. रहमत साहब इन्होंने सलीम साहब ने बहुत अच्छी एक चीज पिक की यहाँ पे. इन्होंने अभी फ्लड की बात की, क्लाइमेट रेजिलियंस की बात की, एंड नेशनल बैंक हैज गॉट अ वेरी डिफरेंट मैंडेट एज कंपेयर्ड टू, और एडिशनल मैंडेट आई वुड से, एज कंपेयर्ड टू द रेस्ट ऑफ द बैंक बीइंग promoting the public sector and representing the government in most of the areas. Pakistan has got a lot of climate funds which have committed a certain amounts over the period, और अभी IMF ने भी 1.45 billion जो है वो लिंक किया है climate resilience के साथ. Loss and damage fund की commitments पड़ी हुई हैं, and the taxonomy was the one of the key area जिसका everybody was waiting how to channelize and identify those sectors. So how National Bank is going to play their role to bring that kind of funding to Pakistan, number one, and enabling the businesses to use that patient capital to bring climate resilient or adaptation or mitigation strategy? That's the one question. Number two, how are you going to think about the foreign exchange risk around it? Because we cannot pass on that foreign exchange risk to the customers while you are talking about the 20-year horizon for a patient capital. So how National Bank is playing its role in that ecosystem to channelize that capital and enable the businesses and even the public sector to go for climate adaptation, mitigation, and the resilience strategies?
Thank you, Sajjeed. A tough one. I think let's put, I mean, the previous panel and my boss, the finance minister, I think was very clear about a certain role of SOEs, right? Although National Bank is an exception to the fact that we are a profitable and sustainable entity, as well as listed, etc. However, having said that, we've always played a role. And I think there is an obligation, not just on National Bank, and we may have a slightly different risk appetite on trying to introduce or enabling the introduction of new technologies or concepts in Pakistan as financiers. But I think my friend on my right, HBL, as institutions who've been there since Pakistan began, we've always, and we continue to have a responsibility towards the development of the country. Since I remember 2012 or 2011, 2012, when the banks got together for the first solar, the wind farms, the first wind farms, and then it started, and now renewable energy, and my friend Dr. Irfan is here somewhere, we were all part of those transactions. Similarly, in that renewable segment, we also brought to Pakistan the concept of renewable financing co-financed with the multilateral agencies. So they brought in the dollars and etc. Now, so we've always played a role and continue to play our role in that sense. But I think there are gaps, right? And I think there's a perceptual gap. One part of it is that a bank can't do everything. And a bank has a certain role in the economy, right? And that is part of all of us in terms of what our shareholders expect us to do, what a bank is supposed to do, and what our regulators allow us to do or do not allow us to do. So within those parameters or the outlines that come up, a bank is not the solution for everything. It can be part of a solution, influence it, but certainly you need sponsors and shareholders who are willing to take the risk. The bank itself is not the risk taker to the extent of the equity risk. And I mean, that's, I'm getting into a little more detail than, but what is important is that allocating those risks and who accepts those risks are the issue. We have had our history of exchange rates moving the wrong way from our own expectations or all banks' expectations. And we worked with customers to enable. But at the end of the day, what has been important is those factories or assets are still in Pakistan and operating, and those blips have been handled. And it's not just, I think, National Bank itself, but all the entire banking sector has stepped up when needed in those situations. But I think there are gaps. And I think what was mentioned in the previous session, that the private sector and the public-private sector, public-private partnership has to really come forward to handle climate coming forward, as well as our own needs, is very important. We're not seeing that kind of appetite yet from the private sector. Maybe we're just coming out of a stabilization or going through that. But once that happens, and it has happened historically that we will be doing our role. I can throw out certain areas which for thought, food for thought. One, I mean, other than the usual solar and the agriculture efficiency, I think when we talk about very large populations and urban centers, or abhi bhi log kehte, abhi Salim Saifullah sahab bol rahe the कि Peshawar kya tha aur kya ho gaya, or all of that. A lot of that has to do with garbage, waste disposal, and waste to energy. And large urban, if we accept that we are a large and growing population, then we also have to accept that we will be producing garbage. And that in itself can be a source of cheap energy. Projects of that nature are areas that local governments, provincial governments, not just the federal government, those are areas where public-private partnership we would all welcome on. Thank you.
No, thank you, sir. I think you picked up the very good point. Number one, that there's a gap, and that's where the ecosystem thinking comes into play, the public-private partnership. And just to let people know, Rehmat picked up on the waste management. So there are two projects in Pakistan, very few people know, which are largest in the world. And the one is the waste management, which collect 57,000 tons every day across 127 million people. And this is the one of the lowest cost waste, door-to-door waste collection to the landfill one. So that's a one project which exists in Pakistan and is largest in the world under the single ownership. And the second project which is happening in Pakistan is building the 2.1 million houses for the areas which were where the flood has affected them. And both these projects are not known in journal, and those are the largest in the world and used as a case study for other countries. So I would encourage everybody to really do a little bit of research there. That would help. But again, you picked up on the agriculture, and that's bring us to Jahangir sir. I think Rehmat sir picked up one of the area that there's a agriculture efficiency, and you are sitting in the middle somewhere where you ensure work with the agriculture sector and the food security, recent flood, then the level of funding which is available to the large farmer and then the small farmer and the entire ecosystem, the waste of the agriculture side. So how you as an organization is playing your role to enable that ecosystem starting from a farm and bringing it to the table and ensuring that the farmers are properly trained and the warehousing is there and transportation is there and the losses can be reduced and still they get the best fertilizer as well as the support and training. So how your organization is playing your role within the agriculture sector, and what you need, by the way, from the banking sector to go forward on the initiatives you are taking right now.
Let's go back a little bit fundamentally, why agriculture is important. We all know that it's food security primarily. Looking at back about 125 years, 1920s, you had about 2 billion people in the world, and �11𝗏𝗏𝗏, which is basically the technology which came out of Germany, is one of the reasons we are now able to feed 8 billion people of the world. So the technology actually did make a difference. Otherwise, 4-time increase in population, same land, you're still sort of producing enough food to feed the entire world. And the entire ecosystem, Pakistan, unfortunately, has a little bit of an inefficiency in terms of yields. 55 million acres, 255 million people, not very high yields. And I think one of the key reasons we don't have high yields, because most of the organizations like us had a very transactional relationship with our end user, which is the farmer. So we had a dealer in between, we were selling a product. We didn't care, how his incomes, how his productivity is going up. Primarily very, very transactional. You get the money and you just think again, So overall, if you look back, countries which have developed had systems embedded. I'll give you an example. 1950s, Taiwan. Fertilizer companies were coming up. It was a lucrative business. They made it mandatory in 50s and 60s that these fertilizer companies, when they sell a product to the farmer, they will also buy the farmer's produce. So literally large organizations got developed by these big companies which were buying the produce of the farmer and getting him the right pricing, So sitting in the middle, we thought that we had actually no touch point with the farmer. I think I must say the pioneers was HPL. Nassir is sitting here. They started with 𝗣𝗸𝗶𝘀𝗁𝗂𝗁, which was a retail channel, and I think we took inspiration from that. But because they are a bank and we are an agri company, so we went from thought to 244 stores in last 7 months. So we are now all across Pakistan, every province, every GB, Azad Kashmir, every province we've got a touch point with the farmer. We've got 1.4 million acres registered with us. We have 120,000 farmers directly working with us. The problem is liquidity, because traditional model had Aarti, who would actually lend it to the farmer at very, very high interest rates. So there are farmers which have collaterals to offer, land, their own, and then there are a lot of tenant farmers now, the lease land ones. Now in Punjab, we had a little bit of a situation has improved because they have digitized their land record. And I think they're bringing a digitized lease also, I've been told. And the last bit is this electronic warehouse receipt. So there are some collateralized products which are coming. But I think the clean loaning is a part which has to come when me and you, being an employee of a company even, get a credit card, which is primarily a clean loaning. I mean, we don't have a collateral backing us. So I think the banks need to work with us. A great model is Rabobank in the Netherlands. Banks need to have, like they have an Islamic window, they have an agri window. And when I look at the numbers, literally ₦1 trillion is classified as agri loans. But it's primarily sugar mills, flour mills. It's not going to the real farmer. The small farmer is not actually benefiting. I mean, that 1 trillion, yes, is going into the agri economy, but it's people who are large corporations, who are large companies. If a sugar mill is taking and it gets classified as agri loan, then so I think we have to find and work with banks where funding comes in. And the bit which we are working now very aggressively is that, the traditional Aarti model was he lends you the money, you buy all the inputs, and he guarantees that he will buy your produce. So I think that's the model which we are working on now. And Aarti will always have a space. I'm not saying that they will never, I mean, you can't go and displace, because Aarti would also lend you money because आपकी बेटी की शादी है तो उस पे भी आपको पैसे दे देगा, आपकी emergency पे वो banks नहीं कर सकते. So I mean, that system has existed in this subcontinent for 300 to 400 years. You can't just displace it totally. But I think funds and lending available at a reasonable rate and with a little bit of a more risk appetite from banks, I think we can really change this ecosystem.
Yep.
That's what our objective is. Opening these shops was one of these step in this direction. And inshallah, I'm very, very confident that we've already seeing some early, signs of improvement. And I mean, all the big bankers are sitting with you. They need to work with us. And we provide the KYC for the farmer.
Yeah.
So we are not underwriting, but at least I can give you that he is a good farmer, So like the community,
Community-based
the
lending.
microfinance, the community was providing that sort of thing. Maybe a company will provide you that. For a word, a better word, कि हम आपको कुछ ना कुछ guarantee दे देंगे कि यार ये बंदा successful है, सही है बंदा. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. I think you picked up one or two things, and I'll bring it back there. Number one, when we are talking about the food security, there's a lot to do with our own behaviors as well. Right now in the world, every 30 seconds, there is a 12 ton of food which go waste. Right? And the 12 ton can feed 30,000 people. And there are 2 people in the same 2 seconds die because of a hunger. So that's the world we are living right now. And just because our consumer behavior, those products were imported to a different piece of land, and it's not stayed there because there is a demand and somebody is willing to pay. Because in an ecosystem, it's not financially viable to bring that food back to those areas. वो financially viable ही नहीं हो पाता. So our patterns in terms of consumption has a lot to do when we are talking about the ecosystem. And definitely another thing, when we are talking about ecosystem thinking, we have to start looking at the risk, how we are going to mitigate. Moving on, and we bring the easypaisa in the conversation. Jahanzeb, Rehmat Saab raised the one question: the bank cannot do everything, and there is a limited role. But what we have seen that within the financial sector as well, the role is expanding. So we are looking at how the banks, or specifically the digital bank, and easypaisa has already proven that, how you can really get in every home and you can influence how they think, how they approach their financial literacy, providing some other apps as well, and linking them together at the same time, creating that ecosystem. So how you see the easypaisa and the banking system, the traditional conventional banking system which already exists out there, working together or competing for the same customer, right? So how that ecosystem is going to evolve, how every actor within that ecosystem is incentivized well so they can collaborate and grow together.
First of all, easypaisa's purpose has been to serve the unserved and underserved market of Pakistan and the masses of Pakistan. Right? We started off as a payments company, and with God's grace, हमारे 50 million consumers are registered account holders on the easypaisa digital platform, of which 31% are women, and majority of them are youth under 35. Right? That's number one. Number two, over time, we have graduated them into providing other services beyond payments. As payments has become a commodity in Pakistan, thanks to easypaisa and some other players, we started to partner and develop a digital ecosystem within the easypaisa platform so we can provide other opportunities to this unserved market to, for example, save in digital instruments like term deposits, which could only be done in a branch network. So with no branch network available, now the masses have the ability to invest in term deposits completely digitally. In addition to that, we are now providing masses the opportunity to invest in mutual funds. Imagine in remote areas, now youth and women have the ability, and this has been done by partnerships with banks and mutual fund providers who are embedded within the easypaisa app, and we enable those consumers within this ecosystem to enable them to invest also in other banking instruments as well. In addition to that, we partnered with underwriters in insurance market and providing more than 50 insurance plans in a marketplace within the easypaisa app and partnering with multiple insurance underwriters. Then we use machine learning and AI to credit score. So where we talked about access to capital, we are able to leverage this behavior, score them, educate them on financial literacy, on even how they can improve their credit score completely digitally, and enable them to access larger lines of credit. So this is a prime example of how we have partnered with other players in the ecosystem across the board, even in the banking sector and non-banking sector, across the board, where now there are more than 10 billion transactions happening on an annual basis, more than that, on the digital rails of easypaisa platform. So that's the power of ecosystem. And the market and the opportunities are big enough where by cooperating amongst ourselves, we can make a huge difference amongst the masses in Pakistan.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So, Ali, before I come to you, Nassir just mentioned that he has to leave. So I have one question. I don't want to leave that question unattended. My question to you would be more around Sharia, Sukuk, capital market role in raising the fund, and how the banks can help channelize to the private sector and the public-private partnership. That's right. Nassir, very quickly, I go back to my original question where we discussed about the environment, but I would be more interested the HPL, how you are going to use your liquidity and the influence to enable the high-risk areas like Jahangir Piracha was also talking about that when you have to really lend to a farmer who doesn't have a right collateral, but he has got something. And then again, cash flow based lending, we are talking about the startup we are talking about. So how we bring that ecosystem in a play where the risk sharing can happen and somebody can provide the capital, even a smaller one, to that high risk area as defined within our society. Otherwise, people have a different definition around the world.
Quite frankly, we've already started that. So when we look at HPL Zarai services, we work on a data concept where seed, fertilizer, agronomist support, all of that is available, plus financing is available from HPL to the farmers. So we are actually at the grassroots levels for 12.5 acres and less doing that. In addition to HPL, we also have HPL Microfinance Bank. So between the two of us, and not to sugar mills, but to farmers, our portfolio is about 100 billion outstanding right now combined, slightly over that. Similarly, when we talk about SME, in SME again, we are north of 100 billion in terms of portfolio size, combined between Microfinance Bank and us. In addition to that, if you remember, State Bank introduced a cash flow based scheme, which then got discontinued. It was so successful at HPL that we decided to continue it on commercial rates. So today we still carry that piece out. The one caution I would say is that the money that we have isn't from gambling. It is basically either equity to a small amount that has been put by shareholders, and it is public money. हम सबका पैसा है जो डिपॉजिटर हैं जो अकाउंट में रखते हैं. So there is a fiduciary responsibility not just on HPL but on every bank in this banking sector that we need to deploy these funds in a responsible manner and be able to pay a reasonable rate of return, whether that is on the conventional banking side, whether it is on the Islamic banking side. We need to be doing profitable ventures, right? So this is different than doing a charity. This is about commerce. Islam में सूद का काम मना है, तिजारत की इजाजत है. So that's where we need to look at these things. I do want to leave a couple of comments around what was talked by Piracha Saab, and I think he's spot on. A lot of institutions, they don't go down to the grassroots level. I can, Rehmat can, because of the size spread that we have. But if you're a small foreign bank with a limited number of branches, which there are a few of those, I think they can help us by supplying us the equipment that is required, right? Patient capital, I think Rehmat and we basically deal with it the right way. How we make the FX piece palatable is we use the FX component for the import part of the project, which in any case is going to be FX. But the local rupee component is typically, footed by us. But if it's a huge project, I think that's where, we don't have the right depth in the capital market, and I'm sure that will be covered later, in terms of how we take that forward. But food security, if you do this right, then you can get about 100% more in the farmer's pocket by taking the aarti out. The only thing is, and Jahangir साहब brought it up, कि जब वो बेटी की शादी है, किसी की फौत की है, खुशी गमी का मौका है, their banks have personal finance. So through Zarai, our banking representatives are able to now cover that part of the ecosystem. Second, जब competition आती है, even the aarti's rates go down because now there's more players in the market. So it overall creates the right ecosystem. So I think again हमें अपना टाइम होराइजन 50 साल का रखना चाहिए, हमें काम करना चाहिए प्रैक्टिकल चीज़ों में कि मतलब इस महीने में क्या करना है, इस साल में क्या करना है. But direction of travel Ori talked about, that has to be a 50-year direction of travel.
We are talking about again the ecosystem, and within the financial system, capital market has got a lot to do. And DIB has got a very unique position because Sharia compliant, getting into Sukuk, also acting as an investment advisor for a lot of larger transactions. So given all those components where DIB can really play the role, so how you see to become a part of that ecosystem, enable that, what kind of collaboration you need from a capital market, from the other banks, from the players like Fauji Fertilizers, how that ecosystem within the DIB you are thinking about to bring that all the actors and incentivize them enough to create those kind of collaboration.
Ji, thank you. So firstly, I think it's fair to say that there is a lot of synergy between Islamic finance and sustainability. Islamic finance is inherently about ethically sourcing funds and deploying them in an ethical manner. And sustainability adds the purpose to it. So you then deploy the funds in an ethical manner for an ethical purpose as well. So when we talk about the ecosystem in Pakistan is still, I would say, at an early stage of development. And when you look across the whole green finance, environmental finance, and sustainability, things from availability of capital to the monitoring and certification to trading carbon and the capital markets, they are at various stages of development. As a international, multinational bank operating in Pakistan, and there are a few of us here, we have an additional role that we can play in the development of this ecosystem, because the sustainability ecosystem is not a domestic one. It is a global one, and the markets that are more developed are international. And when we are a signatory to the Paris Agreement, so we will have a carbon trading market here, but initially the buyers for that are primarily going to be foreign buyers. So as a multinational bank operating in Pakistan, we have the ability to bridge the capital markets and the sustainability funding between the rest of the world and Pakistan. And we certainly intend to play a role in developing this ecosystem. Beyond that, I think it's also a question about aligning our capital deployment with our values. I can give you an example of an initiative called the Banking Environment Initiative, which I was a part of during my days in London, where a number of banks and large multinational companies decided to come together to direct capital towards a sustainability agenda, to prioritize the deployment of capital, to make it sometimes even subsidized. So I think that is one of the things Nassir said earlier on about choosing to shift funding away from things like coal towards more sustainable uses. So that's something all of us can do, and I think as the ecosystem develops, that is one of the things that we can choose to do, is to use the power of the ecosystem to make value decisions on where to deploy capital. And certainly in this respect, as the ecosystem develops and we see carbon trading available, that's one area that we can use to also subsidize financing that is deployed for a sustainable purpose. And I can give one example of a transaction that we are working on today, which I think illustrates both the synergy between Islamic finance and sustainability very well, and also maybe talks about the emergence of an ecosystem. Because the capital market, as you also mentioned, is a very critical component of this. So we are currently working on a transaction where it involves providing energy as a service, sustainable energy for mobile phone towers across the country, which is going to be generated through solar power and then stored in batteries to provide a backup that is an alternative to running diesel generators over there, which are obviously unfriendly to the climate, and also for us in Pakistan, the import bill in foreign currency is another issue there. So it provides a sustainable energy source for these towers, provided by a very innovative solution by an interesting company. The banks are coming together to underwrite the financing. It is being credit mitigated by Infrazamin. And then in the end, this will be placed in the capital markets. So I think it provides a complete circle, and I think is an excellent example of how Islamic finance can use its principles to direct funding towards an ethical use and also help development of the ecosystem and the capital markets.
There are 2 questions from the audience, but 1 or 2.
I have one question कि ये बात भी ठीक है 50% are women. PIDE Pakistan Institute of Development Economics कहता है कि 31% of the youth जो graduated है, जिन्होंने डिग्री ली हुई है या तो BA किया है या MBA किया है, और जो हफीज़ पाशा साहब की रिपोर्ट कहती है कि 118 मिलियन 1 करोड़ 80 लाख यूथ जो है वो आइडल बैठी है, और पाइड कहता है कि 9 to 11 मिलियन यूथ जो है वो आइडल बैठी है. सो बैंक्स का मैं मानता हूं कि वो सब कुछ तो नहीं कर सकते, कोई भी सब कुछ नहीं कर सकता है, बट क्या कभी आपने सोचा कि कोई यूथ फ्रेंडली या वुमेन फ्रेंडली जो है तो कोई फाइनेंशियल प्रोडक्ट डिज़ाइन किया जाए? क्योंकि आपका जितना भी स्टाफ बैठा है जो रूरल एरियाज में है, जो बैंक्स हैं, उनकी तो मैनेजमेंट को भी नहीं पता कि फाइनेंशियल प्रोडक्ट्स मेरे इदारे के क्या हैं, दूसरा इदारा तो बड़ी दूर की बात है.
Thank you for the question. Good question.
We are one of the most aggressive hiring जो हमारी पिछले साल से चल रही है. 22% of our total hiring last year was women. In fact, the Asian Development Bank recognized National Bank as one of the most strong employers for diversity के लिए उनका award भी उसके ऊपर था. I can't give you the exact number, but in the agriculture area जो हमारी financing है, SME के area में women owned businesses के ऊपर खासी तवज्जो और खासी हमारी deployment है. Now, अगर हम उसको 20-30% भी कह दें तो 120 अरब का तो सिर्फ एग्रीकल्चर का पोर्टफोलियो है. तो अगर हम 20-30% भी कर देते हैं तो 30-40 अरब रुपए सिर्फ एग्रीकल्चर की लेंडिंग वहाँ पर आ रही है. लेकिन सबसे ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट उसमें ये है कि जो कहाँ गया ये जो है ना व्हाट्स नेक्स्ट, इसके ऊपर मैं आपसे कमेंट आपको ये कहूँगा कि देखें जो जिस तरह मार्केट या इकोनॉमी इवॉल्व हो गई है ना, इसमें अब वो जो बात है कि वी कम्पीट विद ईच अदर, वी आर डूइंग सम, ये अब ख़त्म हो गई बात. वी प्लग इन. सो व्हेन वी प्लग्ड इन टू ईच अदर, सो एक एग्जांपल मैं आपको कहूँगा कि जो माइक्रो फाइनेंस इंडस्ट्री है, ठीक है ना, हमने कोई 5 साल पहले तहैया किया था कि हम माइक्रो फाइनेंस इंडस्ट्री को सपोर्ट करेंगे, जो लेंडिंग करते हैं स्मॉल साइज की। उसमें जब हमने ये किया तो वी आर टुडे द लार्जेस्ट लेंडर्स टू द माइक्रो फाइनेंस इंडस्ट्री एज अ कमर्शियल बैंक। हम खुद वो काम नहीं कर सकते थे जो हमने ये अग्री सेल्फ असेसमेंट की कि दे आर बेटर एट इट देन वी आर, सो वी डिड इट। ऑन टॉप ऑफ ऑल दैट, अगर आप बात कर रहे हैं तो मैं पेशावर में सामने ही आपके जो खातून बैठी हैं साइमा, शी हेड्स आर इस्लामिक बैंकिंग फॉर KPK and she's been heading it for how many, some years, 10 years. So अगर आप कहें कि हम what we can do to enable is put women on this side, जो उनसे डील करने के लिए, and in leadership positions, so that potential borrowers feel comfortable talking to women as well. And वो भी एक पहलू को हमने कैप्चर किया है। एंड आई थिंक इसी तरह माइक्रो फाइनेंस का सेगमेंट, मुनीर साहब बैठे हमारे, ही इज बीन पार्ट ऑफ दैट। दोज आर जर्नीज व्हिच आर टू प्लग इनटू अदर इकोसिस्टम्स बिकॉज़ वी कांट डू एवरीथिंग, एंड दैट्स व्हाट वी डू।
Thank you, Rehmat sir. And then one of the key actors, जो सुबह भी बात हो रही थी, public-private partnership. The first lost risk has to be guaranteed by the government as well. They have to come into play, and the bank and the financial services become one of a key distribution and the enabling one. एक जो बहुत अच्छी बात हुई, I'm not sure आप में से कितने लोगों को पता है, जब ग्रीन बैंकिंग की गाइडलाइंस आई तो उसमें एक रोल बड़ा मजे का डिफाइन हुआ बैंक्स का, एडवाइजरी, कि आपने ग्रीन एडवाइजरी का एक सेगमेंट डेवलप करना है, फंक्शन डेवलप करना है, सो जब वो और अपने क्लाइंट्स के साथ डील कर रहे हो तो उनको एजुकेट भी कर सके। सो आई थिंक दैट्स अ वेरी गुड लेवरेज people can have with a financial institution, what they would like to know and what the change they can bring to their banks. One question, just one question, and please.
My name is Aslam. I'm from Peshawar. I've been a former minister for industries in 𝗣𝗸𝗀𝘀𝗀. Sir, are the banks doing something for the maritime, the blue economy? Because the blue economy is really coming up. The maritime is really working on that. We have a 240 square foot of land strip, Karachi and that, which is ideal for the blue economy, sir. We need to grow the mangroves. We need to promote the fishing because the technologies we have, the prawns which we exported are of very good quality. They are big in size, and the Punjab is doing it, and 𝗣𝗸𝗀𝗀𝘀𝗀 has started to doing that. So, sir, are you coming up with some kind of some financing for the blue economy or not? And how the banks, because the government is working on those, especially the maritime, the navy side. So how are you gonna market this thing so the people should come into this venture and can do further? Because where the water is, there's the potential. And our water, like the salt water, are ideal for the cold trout, the trouts, and very good fish we have. And now we are
the prawns. Yeah. So I think I'll bring Rehmat sahab and Ali. I would like to have your comment there as well. And Jahangir, Piracha sahab, I would like to have your comment. You are working in an agriculture side. How you are looking at the blue economy? That's a new area which is coming up. Is there any plan where you want to diverse and get into that side? But a 1 minute comment, please.
एक जो चीज़ मैं आपको कहूँगा, मैंग्रोव्स के अंदर तो आई थिंक वी आर स्टिल द होल्डर्स ऑफ द गिनेस रिकॉर्ड फॉर डूइंग मैंग्रोव प्लांटेशन एज अ बैंक, and we did it. We are in the Guinness book on that. So that was one aspect to try and promote it. Second part, जो fisheries की या fishing की बात करते हैं, we have attempted number of times using some government schemes to actually promote ये जो नहीं जो fishing vessels जाती बाहर, जो अब ये माहीगीर जो होते हैं, it hasn't really picked up. And I'll be honest, because it's not very clear cut, the structure, the ecosystem around that to enable financing is very difficult. हमने एक दो की थी, where it was very difficult, and I'll be honest.
Thank you, Rehmat sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Very quick, 30 second, a minute max.
Just quickly to say that I think Nassir mentioned earlier on that not all banks have the same footprint and the same positioning in the market. So he referred to smaller international banks with fewer branches. We are a smaller international bank with fewer branches. So I would say that fisheries in Pakistan is primarily a informal sector or an SE sector. It is not really a sector that we are geared up to support, but we have absolutely no reason to not support any scaled operations in this space. And with respect to their international trade, we'd be happy to facilitate them. But I think our approach towards the SE sector is to try and support them more through the supply chain for larger companies. So that is just a matter of positioning for us.
Thank you. Thank you, Ali. Jahangir sir.
We have access to this prime coastline, about 100 to 150 acres, on which we are now extensively putting mangroves. Now, we are not just putting this mangroves because mangroves also help in retaining the shoreline. So you imagine you have a wind turbine and you are putting all this concrete and to make the embankment strong. If you put mangroves, you're doing two things. You're also supporting the environment, but you're also helping yourself by safeguarding your own asset. So almost 100 plus acres will get a lot of wind farms are around that area. So I think there's a lot of this. This is not government land. This is owned by us. So we are doing that. Primarily, other than that, to a large extent, our view in the blue economy would be because now we are getting into the buying of the produce of the farmer, which means cold chains, transportation, and eventually exports. So we have a company, obviously, which is exporting already some of these French fries, which is a cold chain. So you need all this cold chain to get developed eventually, and the touch point is that a lot of agri produce will have to be exported. I think Nassir alluded a little bit just to give you one.
So very quickly, we have got the red card already.
Just I'm not talking about world standards. I'm not even talking about the best Pakistani farmer. So I'm saying average Pakistani farmer and anybody who is doing slightly better than him. What I mean is 30 to 40% better than him, average. You're talking about 9 billion surplus grains in Pakistan which can be exported. I'm not talking about a big number. If you talk about world standards and better Pakistani, the best Pakistani farmers, what they have is $27 billion of excess grains you can produce in Pakistan and export. So there's a lot of potential, and I think that connection can happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So you got your answer. There's a business who is already investing in that. There are people who want to really invest in that if they can understand the risk and the business. So that's the collaboration and the ecosystem we need to evolve, right? Exactly. So that's what we need to create that ecosystem. Guys, thank you very much. Sorry, we are running out of time, but you will always have an opportunity to interact at the lunchtime and the networking sessions. So guys, thank you very much. Big round of applause for our panelists. Thank you.